Welcome to Beyond the Billboard, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of out-of-home advertising. I'm Greg Wise, and I've spent years helping brands navigate the world of marketing and media planning.
And I'm Charlie Riley. I've spent 2 decades leading marketing teams who've pondered the same question about out-of-home. If you're a growth-focused marketer looking for data-driven ways to stand out, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Billboard. I am one of the hosts, I'm co-host, Greg Wise, founder and CCO here at OneScreen.ai. My fellow esteemed co-host, Charlie Riley, is currently on a Disney cruise with his family. So, Charlie, hope you're having a great time and don't get seasick. And then for anyone listening, he does have a really funny picture of himself dressed up as a pirate. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about our guest, very exciting guest, Kamron Kunce, who is CMO at RJ Young. Congratulations, by the way, newly appointed CMO at RJ Young. And today we're going to talk all about brand sponsorships, how we sort of evolve our branding into the 2025, 2026 and the sort of modern era that we're in as marketers. So, Kamron, welcome to the show.
Greg, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And Charlie, I can't wait to check out that pirate picture when I get around to it, but I hope you have a lot of fun.
We'll be posting that picture along with the podcast when it comes out.
It's got to happen. If we don't show it, it didn't happen. So we got to make it happen.
That's right. Kamron, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and about RJ Young.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Kamron Kunce, I am the Chief Marketing Officer over at RJ Young. Basically, all of marketing and customer experience rolls to me. So that's around 20 people in total. And my role is really just about shaping how our brand builds trust, delivers measurable growth, and creates momentum for the future. And so for me, specifically around out-of-home marketing, it's not just about awareness, right? It's about like how it ties into things that you kind of highlighted before, Greg, like sponsorships, technology solutions, and community impact.
Got it. Excellent. Kamron, let me ask you this, because you're a modern marketer. And a modern marketer who understands out of home, who understands and even mentions the word brand. Tell us a little bit quickly about your background and like where it was that you realized that brand was critical.
It's a great question. So I'm born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm a native, which is rare in today's time because I feel like everyone is moving to Nashville, from New York, from LA, from Chicago. But I welcome it. I think it's brought some really strong creative people to the city. But being born and raised, we're the music city. And so I started my career out in the agency world doing, marketing for new and emerging artists and trying to establish their presence online and build those communities and sell tickets and merchandise. So, and that was the early days of social media marketing. And so that was back in the day when you would post something and most of, if not your entire community would see that post. Well, through time, algorithms change, technologies change, and you had to pay to play. And so as a marketer throughout all that time, even beyond the agency world, I really had to understand this is an omnichannel approach that you have to take to be really effective in today's marketing. And so it's not just one channel that's going to make the difference. It's a variety of all channels. And so out of home marketing is really important, even in today's time, even more so probably now than before, because people have so many things that are trying to capture their attention. And so that's really what I've learned over the course of my career is it's going to take 12 or more touch points for a consumer to really see you, to notice you. And then that's where you got to double down your content and the message that you're putting out.
What do you think the biggest obstacle for other folks? And I guess let me start by asking you this with RJ Young, and I want to get into some of the sponsorships that you're doing, the out of home that you're doing, that you're thinking about, that you've done. But talk to me about what were some of the reasons why at RJ Young, you guys prioritize things like out of home.
So let me give it might be helpful for your audience, just for a quick overview of just RJ Young, who we are and kind of where we came from. So RJ Young, we're the industry leader when it comes to print and office technology, primarily in the Southeast. So, we've been in business for over 70 years. We have around 700 employees. We have just shy of 30 office locations going across 9 states in the Southeast. We are expanding our technology solutions offering to even go nationwide, so outside of our Southeast, traditional footprint. So that'll be something to watch. That's going to be really fun to see in the next coming years. Basically, what we've learned over the past 5 years through COVID, because that really forced us to offer all new product offerings beyond just copiers and printers, because as you know, people weren't going into the office during that time. And so now that we're beyond that, we've really learned and understand what resonates with our customer, what we can really execute on from a technology standpoint, and what's profitable and all those things. But basically, RJ Young, we have four main pillars of business. The first one is office equipment and technology. So that includes copiers, printers, scanners, security systems, and access control, as well as some software. The second is managed services. So that includes managed printing services, promotional products and apparel, and then e-commerce portals for promotional products and apparel. So that would be like if you're a big enterprise and you have some branded apparel that you want your employees to order, you can have an internal portal that helps you do that, which is really neat. The third one is managed IT solutions. So that's anything related to your network. It plugs into your network. It's related to that. And then the final one is digital communications. So that includes audio visual technology, voice, and unified communication. So that kind of gives you like a lay of the land of what RJ Young has been. And so, we're trying to pivot from just being known as like the copier and scanners and printer people into this new technology world, and really just scaling and growing our efforts from there. So that's essentially why they hired me, is like, hey, we have this robust history and all this experience. We need to show our customer like we're evolving with you along with how the world is changing. And so that's what I've been tasked with, is to really show that full breadth of product and services that we offer.
Got it. And it is that sort of like the goal of the transformation.
Yes.
And is that part of the impetus for out of home, for example? You look at a channel like out of home as a big driver or a big component of that sort of shift, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell
So
me about that.
so brand transformation specifically, like, again, we're 70 years old. So
Yeah.
we use out of home marketing to prove that we're just more than print. We want to show momentum into technology solutions that we offer and those managed services. So a real life example is, have you heard of Ford's Blue Oval City by
Yeah.
chance? Okay.
Yeah.
So as you know, like that's an area in West Tennessee that they're going to start manufacturing their next generation of electric trucks. Well, we knew that. And so we saw that as this huge opportunity for us to like kind of get in early with the Ford people. And we knew that they would be traveling on Interstate 40. And so we put a physical billboard on Interstate 40 that just had the message, had like our huge logo up there, and it says, "Let's connect the city together." And it had our website. And so that's a real life example of, we could have just talked about printers or scanners, but we're like, no, we want to just plant the seed to let the people from Ford who are going to be traveling on that road, hey, we're intentional. We see you. We know that you're traveling this road, and we're here to help you build the city, essentially, whenever you're ready. So that's a real life example.
I love that example. And what's interesting is you mentioned being a 70-year-old company. And what's ironic about out of home is the oldest form of advertising we have, right?
Yes.
Our listeners hear me say this all the time, but dating back to like hieroglyphics. So what's funny is you want to communicate this shift to the modern era and making sure your customers and prospective customers know there's technology behind this, et cetera. And you're kind of leaning on an old school medium to do it, to present yourself in a modern way. And I think that is fascinating. I think it's obviously smart. And we're seeing now the most progressive, smartest modern brands and marketers doing the same.
Isn't it funny, Greg, to see what's old is now cool again? Like my team laughs at me all the time because even with all these new technologies with AI and all these things, I'm still going back to what are we doing from direct mail standpoint? What are we doing from a physical billboard standpoint? A physical catalog. That's even something that I want to work with my team that RJ Young has really never done it. And if they've done it, it's been years, but like putting, showcasing our evergreen products and services in a physical product, catalog that we can mail out to people. Like those things are tried and true. And if you're a marketer and you're ignoring those things, I would push hard back on that.
Do you want to run your own account-based marketing program, but you're feeling overwhelmed by complex jargon, expensive tech stacks, and unclear strategies? Scrappy ABM Podcast offers proven strategies and actionable plays that you can use to get started with quick wins. Learn at your own pace, simplify ABM to start seeing real results. Visit Scrappy ABM Podcasts or tune into the Scrappy ABM Show wherever you listen to podcasts.
So on that note, though, so what I was going to ask you was, you sort of talked through the reasons why you thought about out of home, and then walk through, I know you get it. Did everyone else get it internally also? Was there any pushback internally? Hey, we can't attribute this, all of those things. What would you say to the marketer who's like, I can't sell this through?
Yeah, I think it's very valid because I think people, because it's hard to attribute directly to a physical billboard and you know that people are driving. So if you have like a unique URL, the person's not going to stop on the side of the highway and type in. It's hard to track that. So I think what you need to be clear as a marketer is like, how do we personalize this to an audience and not make it just like so generic to where it really doesn't resonate with anyone? Make sure that you're truly understanding who you're getting in front of and the message that you're saying. And you'll be able to see that in the back end of like, hey, we launched this campaign, we saw web traffic go up, or there's a certain theme that we're going on and people are really buying into that. Like there are ways to still show attribution by personalizing the message as opposed to just having like a generic brand message. So that's I've really had to talk about that at the leadership team is like, don't just hear me say billboard, because there might be some negative connotation around that. Let's think about the omnichannel approach of this whole entire campaign that we're doing and how we're attracting the people that we really want to be talking to.
How did that resonate or how did that land with the team at first?
Yeah, I mean, of course they're skeptical because I do try to tell my team like be skeptical, but be open-minded as well. Be open, but skeptical. So at first they're like, really, is that really going to make a difference? But I think just through application they get it, right? And even with physical events, we'll do billboards till we'll get into this if you want to, Greg. But we have an annual event called Tech Connect. And this is our second year doing it. And by the way, we'd love to have you and Charlie come this next year. But anyways, we're wanting to really expand our out-of-home marketing for next year and beyond to really take over the Nashville city because we have the event here in Nashville. So to me, people mentioning that and seeing that through conversations and then seeing people actually show up for the event, again, that's just more leverage to show like, no, these billboards are important when they're strategically placed.
I think you nailed it. It's the strategic placement of it. Audience, context, the personalization, the creative. You touched on all of it. You also mentioned events. You mentioned billboard on a major thoroughfare. And then you also mentioned me before we jumped on the sponsorship side of things, on the sports side of things. Can you tell me a little bit about all the different use cases where you see out of home? And again, for folks listening with sponsorships and you see stadium advertising, technically, folks, that is out of home advertising, right? If you're thinking about an ad you see somewhere in the physical world that's not inside your house, it actually is under the out-of-home umbrella. So tell me about those different use cases.
Yeah, so sponsorships, it's a big line item on our marketing budget. I think at this point we have over 20 or 30 total sponsorships going on right now. And that varies from, collegiate teams to professional teams to, to other agencies like the Nashville Entrepreneurial Center. Like we want to make sure that we're getting in front of that audience as well. So, knowing that we really need to understand that signage isn't just a part of that ecosystem. Like it's not the one part of that ecosystem. It also includes digital and in-venue activations and sales pipeline tracking because it's such a huge thing that we're taking on as a marketing team. So, for example, one thing that we've done with the Tennessee Titans, and I love to tell the story because, again, born and raised in Nashville, the Titans are my team. They'll always be my team. And
tough start, Kamron, tough start.
I know, right? And, lately it's been a little rough, but I will always be their fan. And RJ Young has a really cool story. So I think the story goes that it's Kroger, which is a grocery chain, Coca-Cola, and RJ Young are the only three companies that have been with the Titans since day one of coming to Nashville. And so we've sponsored them for over 25 years. And so with me coming into RJ Young and really evaluating that sponsorship and me being a fan, I was like, oh man, there's some really great opportunities for us to grow that relationship, to really show off what we do in the community. And so with them, like they have a dedicated fan area that fans can have access to before the game. And so this year we have a field goal challenge where fans can come up and, kick a field goal for a chance to win some merch. And at the same time, we're capturing leads. So it's just a great way to engage the community. And even last year, Greg, was really cool. We had, as part of what we do is like we have a whole fleet of delivery vans to deliver toners and supplies. Well, we converted one of those into our fan van and we wrapped it and branded it with Titans and RJ Young, and the back doors opened up and this like technology like apparatus came out and screens were there and you could put on VR gaming headsets and play virtual football. And so it was just, again, that's an example of out of home marketing and strategy of like, hey, this isn't just a physical billboard. This isn't just a digital ad. It's like, no, we're showing you the full breadth of our product through this activation with the Titans.
Wow. So that just spanned all the way down to like experiential, which again, engaging, experiential, If it's in the real world, that is out of home. And from our perspective, when we started One Screen, right, we realized how vast the out of home world is and how many different format types there are. It's not just your 14 by 48 billboards on a side of a roadway, digital or static. It's all these other elements. And that to me is even thinking about out of home as part of an omnichannel approach. There's multiple layers to doing out of home. There's the sponsorship side of it in stadium. Then there's the activations outside stadium. So I think you absolutely nailed it. How do you guys go about thinking about, so beyond the Titans, how did you go expand, get in touch with these other venues and get all that done?
So another one that I love to talk about, another team that we sponsor is Belmont University, which is a college here in Nashville. And we sponsor their women's and men's basketball team. And so this year we really sat down and we're like, hey, what are your goals as an organization? And ultimately it came down to like, hey, we want people to come to our games. And we know where our target audience is hanging out on the weekends. And so how do we get in front of those people? And so through collaboration with them, we created this high-end mall activation. And so it's essentially like a tiny little basketball court that literally looks like a basketball floor, and it had their logo on it. It looks like their real life basketball floor, just a miniature version of it. And we had a basketball hoop on there. We had technology in the space. We had printing collateral, that we can produce. And so again, that's a real life example of making something tangible that people can interact with and engage with. And so it created just that ability for us to showcase what we do, but also how we're supporting the community and trying to get in their fans to the games on Saturday.
And so that was the actual activation in a mall?
It was, yeah. It's a high-end mall in Nashville. It's called the Mall at Green Hills. They're an incredible team. It's an awesome mall. And yeah, we set up in the center of all those stores where people would be walking by and they would see this activation and start engaging with it.
Were you collecting any sort of like contact info from these folks, or was there any sort of other giveaway? Yeah,
and that's a great point, Greg. So like for leadership, I'm coming to them to say, hey, through this activation, we've captured X amount of leads. We're following up with them. We're nurturing them. So yeah, it was definitely an investment because it lives in the mall for like 4 or 5 months, depending on how far they make it in their playoffs. So that entire time we're capturing leads and being able to put them into our CRM to follow up.
Unbelievable. And then I assume then you're tracking sales activity against those leads.
Yes.
You're tracking deal velocity. You're tracking average deal size, all of those elements.
Exactly. And that's really our agenda, with sponsorship is we want to really make sure that there's value with everyone involved, right? So there's value for RJ Young, there's value for the team, and then there's value for the fan and the community. Like as long as we have those three things, that's where the sweet spot is.
Got it. That kind of activation, or just taking a step back and thinking about whether it's the billboards, whether it's this, in-mall activation, the van that you guys outfitted, which is awesome. Talk to me about like percentage, and we don't have to get into very specifics. People are going to be listening and thinking, okay, well, out of home can be expensive. And, we have X amount of dollars to spend our marketing budget. What's the percentage we should allocate towards real world activation? Or offline?
It's interesting. Like, I don't know if there's a specific percentage. I think it varies case by case, but I will say that's where you get creative with your sponsorship, the company that you're engaging with, just to get creative. Like instead of when you're building out that contract, whether it's a new one or you're renewing it, really take time to sit down to think about what are the needs, from both sides, and then creatively come together with an idea that's going to make an impact. So instead of just having, banner ads are fine, and a static sign in the stadium or wherever it is fine too. But like, think bigger than that. Like, how do you get in the community? Because people they resonate so much more with experiences. So it's like, whether it's at the Titans, like, outside the stadium, or it's completely removed in a mall, like we did with Belmont, like, how are you giving your community an experience that they're going to take with them and they're going to share with their community?
It's fascinating. The area, because what you just basically touched upon was understanding your core audience, your ICP, your personas, those attributes, the demographics, the consumer behavior. You knew that the audience to drive to the Belmont women's basketball games were at this mall, right? And that, consumers like these sort of like interactive activations. How do you think about going beyond an area that you know? How would you think about going to an area that you don't know, for example?
This is the perfect segue. And the last thing that I wanted to hit on was building brand trust at scale. So again, like we're throughout the Southeast, and we just recently secured one of the largest healthcare providers in Savannah, Georgia. That's a market that we've not ever been. But because of that opportunity, we ended up opening an office there. So we could have just opened an office and wished for the best to try to get new clients. But what we did, it's like we understood it wasn't just about reach. It's about a physical, presence that reinforces reliability, especially in new markets. And so when my team is thinking about this new market launch, we're thinking and focused on things like physical and digital billboards in that area. We're thinking about personalized ads in like the Savannah, Hilton Head area airport. That's where decision makers are going and traveling. So they need to see us there as well. And then like OTT and CTV ads around golf tournaments. We know that golfing is a big deal in our customers, their preferences and where they like to hang out. So it's like, that's a perfect example of like, we could have just launched the office in Savannah and just hoped for the best, but we were very intentional about how we really launched ourselves, knowing that they care about being local and being active in the community and getting that awareness.
So it's interesting. So that use case right there is even a different use case. It's breaking into a new market, expanding within. And so we hear this all the time, whether it's, hey, from a B2B company, they have target accounts and you have sales that are focusing on a certain market, on certain top tier accounts, or it's a consumer brand where they look and say, hey, look, we have high brand affinity, but low sales in this market. We want to penetrate it. It's kind of a focus, not a multi-channel approach. And it sounds like for you guys, and what we try to emphasize for our clients is out of home should be a core component of that playbook, which you just outlined perfectly. And I realize not every brand out there has the budget or the team to be able to execute in all of those channels. But what you just described is absolutely how you go about a campaign. It's focused. All channels are working together. And quite frankly, yes, some of those channels that you just talked about, you can have direct attribution, something like out of home, maybe not, but it's a rising tide lifts all boats mentality. And it sounds like you've done a hell of a job understanding that, but also really for our marketers listening, it's like selling that through internally too.
Yes.
And building the trust internally. Charlie always talks about marketers have to be the best salespeople.
Yes. Oh, true. Yeah. And it really, again, I can't emphasize enough, really sit down and think through the value that you're bringing through this strategy. Because again, if you're just launching a logo out there, it's like, for example, Savannah, if we literally just would have put a billboard with our logo on it, no one would know who we are because we haven't been in that space. So it's like, it forced us to be really intentional about the messaging that we're putting out there. And so we're not seen as just like a Nashville company. It's like, no, we're like throughout the Southeast and even beyond that. And we're here to serve you in your community. It's not just going back to Nashville. And so that's what I would tell your listeners is like, to your point, even if you don't have the biggest budget or you have some, negative connotation from the internal side of things, just test things from a personal side and making sure that you're getting in a strategic area that is really speaking to your audience. And it's going to resonate. It really will.
Absolutely. And look, you are experienced and seasoned with offline, with everything we've been talking about. There's a lot of folks out there who are not. They haven't actually even dipped their toe into this out-of-home world, whether it's events, sponsorships, or anything. And, look, one thing we always like to let them know is it's important to work with a trusted partner, obviously, like selfishly, something like OneScreen, right? Where we want to make sure that we are being targeted because you don't have to spend a ton to make an impact. But in order to do that, you really have to work with the right kind of data to identify where your audience is, those movement patterns, the consumer behaviors, being able to identify the inventory. Quality doesn't have to be quantity that will actually reach that audience the best, right? And that's how to maximize that reach, the frequency, and balance out, man, I thought we had to, spend six figures in order to do this. You don't, if you do it right.
Right. No, I agree. One thing that my team has done that I'm really proud of is, specifically with sponsorships, because we have so many of them, it's like, how do you keep people accountable, right? And because you can easily lose track of that. So my team created like a tiered system to where we can set expectations on the front end with either new sponsorships or existing sponsorships to say like, hey, yes, we want to support your program, but at the end of the day, we are a business as well. So we have to see a return on our investment. And so we've created this tiered system, around terms and, specific criteria. And so all that to say, we're working alongside them to, again, be intentional about injecting value to make sure that we're hitting those key metrics to make it a long-term thing. Because that's what I'll say is like, if you are anticipating, launching a billboard and then seeing massive success instantly, it's probably very not likely going to happen. So it's more of a long-term play. So the point of really thinking through and setting expectations early and then working with each other along that whole way, that long-term play is going to benefit you so much more than just having a billboard for, a couple months and then pulling it down.
I was just about to ask you as we're kind of wrapping this up, what your best piece of advice is for folks thinking about out of home, but
That's
I actually
it.
think you just absolutely nailed it. That expectation piece, Kamron, I think you just absolutely crushed it.
Awesome.
I feel like we should do a part 2 where we actually show your campaigns and we kind of talk through how you're tracking them, how we're measuring things, but like actual pictures we can show with folks. But I think this has been phenomenal. And not just because you love out of home and we do too.
Yeah.
So there's a little bias there, but let's do that, Kamron. We should
I'm
definitely do
all
a part 2. But I also want to ask you, where can folks connect with you? And obviously the best way to connect with RJ Young.
Yep, I love it. Again, thanks again, Greg, for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Kamron with a K, Kamron, Kunce, Kunce. And then our website is just rjyoung.com. You can find us there.
Phenomenal. All right, we're going to do part 2. We'll have Charlie be here, of course, in his pirate costume.
Yes.
And yeah, look, but it's been a pleasure. This has been one of my my favorite episodes, Kamron. I mean that. And look, for folks listening, really appreciate you tuning in. I'm your host here, Greg Wise, and tune in to another episode of Beyond the Billboard coming soon. Thanks, Kamron. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Billboard.
If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you found value today, share this with a fellow marketer who should be thinking bigger about out-of-home advertising.
If you're looking for a template to build your out-of-home program, visit onescreen.ai to get a free media plan or connect with us on LinkedIn for all the latest out-of-home insights.
This has been Beyond the Billboard. We'll see you next time.